Advanced Videography Tutorial Part 2 Changes in Focus and Depth of Field. This technique is quintessentially cinematic and requires a DSLR camera with a lens with a fairly wide f-stop, f3.5 or faster. It also requires full manual control over focus and exposure. Depth of field. The depth of field is determined by the aperture setting. The highest setting, for example, f22, gives the deepest depth of field, and the lowest gives the shallowest. Any change manually to the aperture has to be compensated by changes to the shutter speed. At a wide aperture, the shallow focal plane will move as you change the focus of the lens. Focusing effects depend on a shallow depth of field to be visible, so it works better with lenses that have a fast aperture like f2.8 or lower. It also works far better with medium and telephoto lenses, 50mm or longer, and it is not recommended for use with wide-angle lenses. Defocusing. Set the aperture as wide as possible and adjust exposure visually on the monitor by changing shutter speed. Compose the shot as you want it to appear finally. Now turn the focus ring and defocus the whole shot as much as possible. This will be your final image. Return to the perfectly focused first position. Make sure the tripod and head are fully locked as you don't want any movement. Press record, shoot 3 seconds, then turn the focus ring in one clean move to fully defocus the entire frame. This makes a very effective end shot to a sequence or the whole video even. You can now repeat the process in reverse. This creates a form of reveal as the defocused image comes into vision. It is technically harder as you have to hit the focus bang on for it to be effective. If you have trouble achieving this focus, then do the previous technique, but only if there is no natural movement in the shot. Then tell the editor to flip the defocusing shot in the edit so it comes out backwards and the effect is of coming perfectly into focus. This is a dramatic way of introducing a subject or theme in the video. To be on the safe side, when shooting this technique, shoot both, going from focus to blurred and back again several times, and this will give the editor lots of choice. Focusing tips. Your camera will probably have a focusing aid, enlarging the image on the monitor to enable much more accurate focusing. Use it whenever possible, it helps enormously. To get optimum focus control, it is possible to buy a clip-on viewfinder for your monitor. This gives great magnification to the image and shades it from the light, enabling you to get the best possible view of your focus. Be warned though, as direct sunlight passing through the viewfinder will damage your monitor. Focus racking. This is the technique of shifting focus from one subject to another at a different depth in the frame. Set up your shot, framing both elements to be focused on in good relation to each other. Using the lens focus ring, practice turning the focus ring while looking at the monitor so that you move from one subject to the other and back. It is a very tricky adjustment and you need to get it absolutely right. Make sure the tripod head is locked off and cannot move. Press record and at 3-second intervals, shift the focus from one plane to the other. Go back and forwards like this at slightly different speeds until you feel sure you have the correct focus on each plane in succession. It is a hit and miss process, so you need to try a few times even. Racking while moving. Once you have mastered the technique of racking on a locked-off camera, you can advance to using the technique while panning, tilting or sliding. This consists of moving the camera so that the starting and finishing frames are on different focal planes, and you rack the focus while moving the camera. This is the most sophisticated shot in the cameraman's arsenal and will take considerable setting up and practice. Racking with a pan or tilt. Set up and compose a pan or tilt shot with the beginning and end frame being at distinctly different focal distances. Practice the focus between the two while you are moving from the starting frame to the finish. Press record and shoot versions until you are satisfied. You can modulate speed of movement and focus to your taste. You need to practice coordination so that the change in focus of the starting frame is simultaneous to the focus and the movement arriving at the last frame. Racking with the slider. This is probably the most cinematic shot of all. If you have a luxury hotel or a special restaurant, then why not give them luxury treatment? This shot works best with a parallel movement. Compose the shot so that the movement and the focus rack take you from foreground to background, or the other way around. Again, you need to synchronize the focus shift with the movement between starting and finishing frames. All of these techniques are demanding and will take several attempts each time to get right. So plan your shooting and your setups and rehearse each shot thoroughly. It is much slower work than normal shooting, but the rewards are worth it. Happy shooting!